Okay, so we're gonna start with making the base of our cheesecake. I just have some blueberries and raspberries that I took out of the freezer. I'm just gonna let these defrost as much as possible. I might actually put them in a little bit of hot water because I wanna make some that have like a raspberry swirl on top and some that have a blueberry swirl. So I'm just gonna set these aside, but get out whatever kind of fruit you want. You could do like a mango or any kind of fruit that you have that you think would be good. Also, I apologize if you guys can hear my husband. He's like on the tractor doing stuff in the backyard right now, so he's working on our landscaping. But for the base of this, we're gonna use a cup of oats. We're just gonna pulse blend this really quick in the Vitamix, and this doesn't have to be like super specific because it's just kind of a little crumble. I'm gonna use 5 dates. So these dates are fresh dates. See how like moist they are? If you have dried dates, it might actually work better because you don't want this crust to be super wet, but if they're like really hard and your crust isn't kind of crumbling together, you can soak them in a little bit of water first, or you can just add like a tiny bit of water to this as it's blending. But I think if you just soak them for a little bit before, it'll work out quite well. They're basically just like a binding agent. They're gonna, you know, add a little bit of sweetness. Then I have a 1/4 cup of walnuts here. You could use any kind of nuts that you have, or like sunflower seeds. It's basically just so that the crust isn't so dense. Like if you just use dates and oats, it's like gonna be a really, really dense crust. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt, like a 1/4 teaspoon of salt into here, and just like a splash of vanilla. All right, so I'm just gonna pulse blend this. So you basically want it to be like, so that you can crumble it together and it's gonna hold its shape like this. We're not gonna bake these or anything, so this is just kind of like a nice little crust on the bottom. They're like, you know, no baked cheesecakes here. So I'm just gonna put all this into a little bowl. And if you don't have a high-speed blender, you could just use, I mean, you could use like a magic bullet to do this, but you could also just use like a food processor. I think a food processor would actually work best because it does get really stuck on the bottom of the blender, but I'm just too lazy to actually clean 2 separate containers today because we're gonna need to use the blender for the cheesecake, like the cream cheese portion of it. So I'm gonna use this muffin tin. Like I said, these are gonna be tiny cheesecakes. So I'm just gonna take like 2 tablespoons of this and just press it into the bottom. And you can just take your crust and spread it out into the cups until it's all spread evenly between the 12, and then just press it down. I think it's also easiest to just use like a little spatula as well. You just want to get it like as condensed and pressed down as you can because it's just gonna be this nice little crunchy crust on the bottom. All right, so for the filling, I'm just gonna use my blender. I'm not even gonna clean it out because I'm just a really lazy cook, you guys, like if you haven't noticed that yet. It's all gonna be blended up anyways, so less work. We're gonna add a cup of cashews. Like I said, this is not a low fat or diet dessert. It's just a small single portion, but you can definitely lose weight eating tiny little desserts. You guys don't have to cut out all fat or anything like that to lose weight. We're gonna add a cup of that into there. And then we're gonna add in 6 tablespoons of maple syrup, which is a little bit less than half of a cup. I also have half of a cup of full fat coconut milk. We are going to add in the juice of a lemon. Make sure you don't get the seeds in there. The seeds will make it super bitter. So you can, if you don't trust yourself, if you're not this brave, you can just juice it into a little bowl and then make sure you take all the seeds out. Or you can just do your hand like this. And then I'm gonna add another pinch of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon, and another splash of vanilla. And then we're gonna blend this up till it's super smooth. All right, so this is our filling. And then I'm just gonna throw in these separately and just blend them up really quick. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is just go through and put in our cheesecake layer. All right, so I'm gonna take a small spoon and do the raspberry layer first. And this you can kind of just do the same thing, just do a little scoop in each one and then top them off if there's any extra. And then I have just some frozen raspberries. I'm just gonna come and put a little bit of these on top. All right, then we can do the blueberry layer. You can use, like I said, whatever kind of fruit you want. I think mango would be really good. You could use like dragon fruit, passion fruit would be really good. And then we'll do the same thing with the blueberries. Put a couple on top. And then we're just gonna put this in the freezer for about 6 or 7 hours to just get them totally frozen, and then I'll show you guys what they look like. We're gonna make some healthy Snickerdoodle bites. We're gonna start off by adding a cup of oats into a food processor. Then I have 6 pitted dates. Again, these dates are the wet pack dates, so they're super soft. If you can see, they'll like squish in my hands. So I would recommend soaking your dates in water if they are really dry dates. And then you can just drain the water before you use them. We're gonna use half a tablespoon of cinnamon. These are very cinnamony. And then 2 tablespoons of almond butter. So you could use like a sunflower butter or even peanut butter if you really wanted to. I think peanut butter just kind of has a strong taste. Or you could use like tahini or cashew butter also. This just helps it give it kind of more of like a cookie flavor and not just like a date oat bliss ball flavor. I feel like it just makes it a bit more rich, more dessert-like. I'm also just gonna add in a splash of vanilla and then a pinch of salt, so like a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. All right, we're just gonna process this. All right, so you guys probably couldn't see that when it was doing it, but you want it to process until it basically becomes a dough like this. So now we're just gonna put this to the side. And then into a little bowl, you can just add 1 or 2 tablespoons of sugar. You can skip this step if you want to, but I think it makes them taste very, it gives them like the classic Snickerdoodle flavor. Obviously, they're very, like Snickerdoodles are basically cinnamon sugar cookies. So we're just gonna mix together some cinnamon and some sugar. And then I just have this small scoop, so I'm just gonna make them all uniform. And you'll just wanna roll them into a little ball and then roll them in the sugar cookie, or the cinnamon sugar. And then you basically get these little Snickerdoodle bites. They're kind of like donut holes, honestly, but they're super good. All right, so these are all finished. I made 15 of these little Snickerdoodle bites. Like I said, the recipe will be down below for you guys. I'm gonna put these in the fridge. They will last quite a while in the fridge, well, as long as they actually last without getting eaten, obviously. But I like to just put them in a little container, put them in the fridge. I'll probably put them in this little thing because it's cute. But if you store them in a little container like this with a lid in your fridge, they will last like weeks, honestly. They don't really go bad in the fridge, but I would highly recommend refrigerating them. You can even freeze them and they taste like little kind of ice cream Snickerdoodle bites. So that's another option. They're also really good on top of a little bit of banana ice cream. If you're feeling fancy, you can kind of use them as like a cookie dough and break them up in it, and that's really delicious. But let me know if you guys try these. Tag me on Instagram. I love seeing your guys' recreations. And yep, that's it for this recipe. Okay, so for this caramel mocha kind of frappuccino style thing here. I don't really know what to call it because I make it different in a few different ways, and I'll show you. But I got this idea from a YouTuber, a vegan blogger. Her name is Liv B, and I will link her recipe down below. She actually makes this as a protein smoothie in the morning, which is why I'm gonna make it kind of this way today. But I like to have it at night if I want something kind of chocolate caramely, or sometimes I have it in the morning because it's kind of like a Starbucks caramel frappuccino. So I'm gonna make it with a little bit of coffee today because it's like 9 in the morning. So I'm gonna use a little bit of this and make the frappuccino version, but for the normal version, it's the same exact thing, you just ex-nate the coffee. So you can make it both ways. So in my blender, I have about half a cup of ice. I'm gonna add into here a frozen banana. And then instead of using the protein powder that Liv uses, which I do have, and I do make the protein one sometimes, we're just gonna use some caramel stevia drops. Put a squirt in there. I really like the caramel flavor. I'm gonna add in the coffee, which if you're having this at nighttime, do not do this. But if you are a Starbucks Frappuccino fan and you want a really low calorie vegan version of it, this is for you. Okay, so then I have some cocoa powder. I'm just gonna add about 2 teaspoons in here. I don't really measure it, so that's just what I, you know, just a scoop. And then we're just gonna add in about 4 to 5 ounces of soy milk. And you could use like cashew milk or any other kind of plant-based milk that you like. I just use this one because, you know, I use it in every video. So we're gonna blend this baby up. I'm just gonna put this into a mason jar. So I have this coconut whipped cream. I actually get this from Trader Joe's. It took me forever to find coconut whipped cream because Ready Whip used to make one, and I think they stopped making it. So I'm gonna add some whipped cream on top of here. You know, which obviously if you make it without the coffee is just kind of like a caramel mocha. But it's so good if you want like a frozen dessert at night after dinner. This is my go-to.